I've just been working a lot this week on my sewing machine, so what I'm going to do is just go around and give it a little clean off. Got a bit of paint there, clean that off, and I'm just going to wipe it all down with a just slightly damp cloth. Pick up any dust or anything, because they do get dusty, and of course that can come off, especially if you're using some white fabric. You can get a mark from your the dust on the sewing machine, so just give it a wipe down with the damp, very slightly damp cloth. Okay, pick up any dust which might be on it, and I do that say once a week, and then go back and look at the video which I've done on how to clean my sewing machine. And if you've been using your sewing machine a lot over the past couple of weeks, I would suggest that you follow that video and clean out underneath your bobbin. So what I've done today is I found this beautiful fabric. It was a dress. I got it from the charity shop, and I'm going to cut this up to make a saree. So I just wanted to show you how I use a rotary cutter for doing my cutting. It's just another way that you can work with fabric. You don't always have to use your scissors. You can use a rotary cutter, especially if you've got big pieces of fabric. They use them a lot when they're doing quilting and that sort of thing. I would use it if I was going to do quilting. What I need to do is, can you see this edge? This is going to be my straight edge, okay, because when I lay that down on that fold, that is going to be straight, because it obviously can't be anything else. So I've got a ruler here, and if I put that ruler on at 11 inches up there, okay, because I need a 10-inch piece, I'm going to cut 1 inch off the bottom down here, and I'm going to cut it at 11 inches here. So now if I put this line, let's put the red one up there so you can see it better, onto the edge of my fabric, can you see that that is straight? So I know that that's straight. Over here on my mat, I'm measuring it at 11 inches, okay, so I know that that's going to be a straight piece. Take my rotary cutter. Now these are incredibly sharp. I wouldn't use one of these if you were a child. If you've got problems with your hands and that, it might be a problem as well. I have cut myself, and I do have a scar from using one of these, but you know, it's much easier if you're going to be cutting something like this to get an absolute straight line. So you know, you just have to take your choice. You have to press reasonably hard, but just be careful. Okay, run it down through. Okay, and there you go, a nice straight cut. All right, and then what you can do, if you don't want to struggle with it down on this end like that and trying to cut it down there, what you can do is just whip your board around. If you're going to be buying small pieces, if you're just going to be cutting small pieces, you can get a board like this, and this one spins on the table, and it's really good, but that's more for cutting out pieces when you're piecing fabric for quilting. So this, I would just, I mean, it's just as easy to swivel that one around. Then I'm going to put that one on that 1 inch line, but what I'm going to do is make sure that that line there, that red line, is on that edge of that fabric. Okay, and line that up so it's all sitting correctly on my board. That's it. Okay, and then I'm just going to come across with my rotary cutter again and cut it straight off there. There you go, and now you've got a nice piece, and I'm just going to cut straight down. So you need to cut a piece of fabric for the headdress, which is 9 inches in width by 60 inches in length, or you can cut them like I've done and put a join in the middle. So mine is 9 inches by 60 inches. So once it's done, I will lose half an inch, but that's not, I wouldn't lose an inch because I'll have an inch for the edging there. Okay, so as I turn it around, obviously it'll be tiny like that, and you'll lose an inch on that. So that's what it'll be. It'll be 59 inches. Okay, you don't have to make it that big. You can make it whatever size you want to. You know, if you've got a piece of scrap material when it comes to I don't know, say 52 inches or 48 inches, you know, just use that. Doesn't matter. Okay, so you'll need one piece at that size. I've cut two pieces and I'm going to join them together, and then you've got to cut out your little bodice, okay, just as we did on the basic dress and the witch's dress and all that, and then just sew across your seams here and finger press them down. All right, and then we can start getting to work. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is to take our two pieces, put the two right sides to right sides like that, and then we're going to pin along there, pin along that edge like that, just there, and then we're going to just stitch straight across that edge. So I've got my pieces stitched together, just going to turn them over, okay, and then on this side you want to get your iron and fold up your end onto that 1/4 inch mark on your piece of paper. Remember, we drew a line on our piece of paper at 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so you're going to fold it up like that with your iron and go along very carefully and go all the way along until you've got it all folded over like that. And then once you've got it all folded over, come back and go turn it over again and just fold that up again. Okay, just the same like that. So you've got a double edge on it. Okay, and we're going to do that on both sides. So you're going to do it on this side and on this side, okay? And we're going to do it on this end here, and we're going to do it on the other end as well. So as you can see, here is my two folds of fabric, okay? And all I'm going to do is go all the way along to back stitch and go all the way along this side of the fabric and all the way along the other side of the fabric. Back stitch. Oops, sorry, back stitch, and then all the way along to the very edge of the fabric. When you get along, you might find, like here, look, it's curling out. Just remember to just tuck it back underneath, all right? And keep going along. You want your needle to come on the edge here, all right, as you're doing it, and then just go all the way along. So I'm just doing this piece at the end, and instead of doing it on the 1/4 of an inch, I've actually made this slightly bigger because of this fraying. But I think if you were doing it, you probably don't need to do it like this. So this will be the end of the very long pieces on the 10-inch side. Okay, so I'm just done some back stitches. I'm just going to run it straight down to the bottom like that, back stitch, okay, and then all these long ends you can cut off. All right, most of that is bits of the actual fabric which has come out. That's just because, can you see on mine, it's got a thread running through it. All right, but if you're using a different fabric, it won't do that on it. Okay, so then just tidy that up and do exactly the same on the other side. So I'm just going to use my rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut this piece at, I'm just going to get a straight edge first. Once I've got that straight edge, there we go. So I've got a straight edge there. I'm going to bring it down now, and I'm bringing it down to the 2-inch mark. Okay. Now you could, if you wanted to, bring it down to the 2.5. I think I will bring it down to 2.5 on this one, because this is going to be my waistband of the skirt, like that. I'll just give me that extra little bit to play with. Just pull that down a second. I'll get it straight there. Across. Oops, not going to weigh that. That's it. I'll do the same. And I'm going to do the same, but this one I'm only going to cut at 2 inches. So I want 2 inches by 14 inches. So I've got my saree piece now here. Oh, is it? Here we go. This is the front of the saree and that's the back. So it's just come out just like a scarf, really, a big long scarf. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a fork, and this might sound silly, I've got a little tiny cake fork here, and I'm going to fold it back on itself just one time, so you've got that piece like that, okay, and that'll go underneath your skirt, all right, like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our fork again and we're going to place it there, and we're going to fold it over, so that will be the next piece of your skirt. Okay, now to keep these nice folds laying like that, what you can do is just get the pin and pop it in there. All right, and then you're just going to come along, put your fork onto the edge. You don't have to use a fork, you can just do it with your fingers, and then fold that over, so you get a nice fold. And you want to keep going along, and you want to keep those folds roughly the same. Now I'm having a problem with the pins because of this fabric being so slippery, so what you can do is take a piece of masking tape, and that will work just as well, and it won't slip out like those are doing. So I'm just going to go along, and I'm going to do a nice row of pleats going along my skirt. I put in my little pleats using my fork. So now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I'm just going to put a line of stitches just across here at the top, and I'll just catch that in place so that I've got a nice row of straight row of folds in there like that. So rather than having my foot, my fabric coming out to the edge of the foot there, I'm trying to keep it, get the needle to go straight on the very top of these folds. Okay, so I'm just going to run it along, and this is just mainly to hold it in place. If you find a bit like that where it's popped out a bit, just wiggle it around until you get it straight. Same with that one. Oops, I'm not going to see my pieces come off there. Oh, I'm getting a few off there. Hang on a minute. I see what's happening. It's caught down here. That's okay. That'll be alright. Okay, and so just carry on, keeping that very edge, and go right to the very end. And first of all, I'm going to do a little fold at the end. Sorry, I'm going to fold it over like that once, twice, and then I'm going to take it to the end of my fabric, and I'm going to pin it all the way along so those two pieces marry together. Okay, so I've got it all the way pinned to the end, and I'm just going to take it now on this piece, and I'm going to get it nice and close to the end on that 1/4 of an inch. All right, and I'm going to just sew all the way across, remembering to put a back stitch in to start yourself off. Just stitch right to the end, and then put another back stitch in when you get to the end. So this is the skirt, and we've got our hem all the way along, all seamed stitched up. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this piece of the hem, this piece of the top, and we're going to roll it over the top of the hem, and we're going to pull it back like that. Okay, now you see all those bits are coming out. What I'm going to do is just give that a little trim just there, so that's sort of at an angle, and then if you roll that around now, you shouldn't get so many bits coming out the end. We want to roll it so that we've got no ends coming out, and we want to get that so that sits on there. Let's get these threads out of the way. Sits on that foot is sitting on it. Instead of getting that out of the way. That's it. That's better. Right, okay, and that is going underneath like that, and it's curling all the way around along, and that's what we want to do all the way along, so that's completely hidden. All right, do a back stitch, get that on there. And we're just going to come along and do that all the way along your waistband. make sure that none of that fabric from underneath goes up onto that side, otherwise you'll have to unpick it. Just keep turning it over like that. You can pin it beforehand if you want to. Okay, and just keep going all the way along, all right, till you get to the end, and then don't forget to do a back stitch at the end. So here we have my skirt, and I hope that I'm not offending anyone by the way I'm making this. I'm making this just out of my head to the best of my ability, so hopefully it'll be okay. So we've cut the bodice out, and here is the bodice, and we're going to do the bodice exactly the same as we did when we did the basic dress. So if you want to go back and look at that video, I think it's called the basic owl dress video, you can look at that video as well. So I'm just going to place it on, and I've just pinned the two shoulders together on both pieces of bodice, okay, and I'm going to just run straight across here with a little back stitch. So this fabric is, which I've chose, is like a lurex, so it's very, very slippery on the sewing machine, so you're going to have to take a lot more care when you're using it, because it's going to want to pull away and move around. So I've put it in, and I'm going to do it much slower and take care that I keep it on that 1/4 inch. And then a back stitch, and then just go along to the end, and then a back stitch. There you go. Okay, so just going to take a little bit more time. Just give yourself time so that you don't have to fuss too much with it. All right, so here we have our two pieces of bodice. Okay, and we're going to put them so that that one is facing up, so your seams are on underneath, and we're going to put this one so that the pattern is facing down, and we're going to pin all the way around, from around the neck all the way around like that, okay, and then we're going to pin all the way around on both arms, so all the way around like that, and all the way around like that. So as you can see, I've pinned all the way around the arms and all the way around the neck. So I'm just, sorry I didn't put the camera on, I just did a back stitch there. This is the bodice. Just did a back stitch there, and I'm just coming around now, and I'm very carefully going over, keeping my fabric at that 1/4 inch on the edge of the foot, and just going around my bodice. Oh, watch out for those pins. Now this fabric is very difficult because it's wiggling all over the place, but if you can just take your time, you will get it right, okay? Just keep pushing it and playing with it until you feel that it's definitely right. Moving it slowly. And you can see I'm not doing a very fast stitch, I'm just going slow and moving it around, keeping that foot just there on the edge of the fabric. Just go all the way around until you get to the end, and then we're going to do a back stitch. Right, now because my fabric is really pulling and it's coming away, I'm going to do another row of stitches right the way around, but you won't need to do that if you're not using this sort of fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to turn my piece around, and I'm just going to drop my needle back down, and I'm just going to go all the way around again. Just going to get my stitches just above where that other stitch is. So the next thing we're going to do now is the arms, and we're going to do that exactly the same way. Put our needle down there, pin out and do a few back stitches, and then go around all the way around again. Okay, now Can you see my needle's in the down position, and I'm going to need to turn this. So I'm just going to move it very slightly, take out my pin, and then carry on. Okay. There we go. Get my finger there, let's get that seam down. And if you need to lift your foot, you can do, or you might feel that you can just turn it with your hand. I'm just going to come around this side and come out. Okay. So just go around and do exactly the same on your other arm. Okay. And don't forget to do your 2 back seams as well. So that piece there needs to be sewn straight down like that, and the same on this piece here. You just need to sew them straight down. Okay, so that'll be those. So that's, as you got it like that, it'll come straight down here like that, and the same on that side. So what I'm going to do now is just go around and do the snips, okay, just all the way around, just so that we can get that to fold nicely. Okay, so I'll just go all the way around here, all the way around there, and all the way around there, just snipping just up to that line of stitches. Now if you go over the stitches, don't worry, because you can take it back to the machine, but make sure you do take it back to the machine, otherwise you'll end up with a hole. Okay, there we go, just carry on going around like that. Right, so I've got that done. I'm going to take my forceps. Now you don't have to use forceps, you can use a knitting needle, you can use tweezers, you can use one of those things for spaghetti straps, whatever you like, but I like to use these forceps. Okay, just going to thread it through that armhole there. Now this fabric is really fragile, so I'm going to have to be really careful. And then I'm going to take the forceps blades and I'm going to pop my piece of fabric in, and then very gently and very carefully, I don't want to be pulling this fabric too much, I'm just going to bring it through. Okay, like that, and there you've got your little top. Bring all the bits out and poke all the little bits out that you've got. Okay, so do it on that side and do the same on that side there, and that's that. And then you can take your forceps and just push out that corner there. Alright. Now what I'm going to do, because my fabric is so fragile and it's been coming unravelled, what I'm going to do is take my machine and go around, and can you see here, I'm just going to stitch right on that very edge, and hopefully that will help stop anything from coming unravelled. So I'm going to go all the way around the neck, okay, and then I'm going to go all the way around the inside of the both armholes as well. Alright, this is going to take it, I'm going to take a little bit of time with this because I want to get it right near the edge, as close to the edge as I can get it. Alright, there's my foot. Do a little tiny back stitch. Okay, and then I'll come around. Hopefully. Okay. Just catching that very end of the fabric, and hopefully that will hold it in place and stop any of that fraying coming through. So I really don't want that happening. So our bodice is almost finished. All we have to do now is take this part and place them together. and then we're going to to put a pin in it, and we're going to do a straight stitch right across, all right, on that side, and then exactly the same again on this side here, making sure your seams all sit together beautifully. Sorry, my seam's in there. So just going to stitch them just across like that. Okay. So I'm just going to go straight across, back stitch, and straight across again. And that's that side done. And do exactly the same on the other side. So this is the little top. It's almost ready. I was going to put Velcro on it, but I think it's going to itch too much. I think I will put a pop fastener on, and I'll hand sew the pop fastener onto the back. I have one there and one there. All I need to do now is make a little band to go around the base of it, and then I will hand stitch it along the back. So I've taken both of my pieces, and I've taken the iron and I've folded them in half, right down the center like that. And then I've taken this piece and I folded it into a quarter, so it's running like that. Okay, and so once you've got that done, I've got to work out which is my bigger piece. I think this is the bigger piece for the skirt. All right, once you've got that done, what you're going to do is take your piece of fabric and your bodice, and you're going to pin all the way along so that that piece of your bodice there is pinned to that fold. Okay, so because we're going to want to make a row of stitches along the fold. All right, just before you do that, sorry, I should have said we need to turn that under twice like that, and then go along and pin that so the fold is touching the bottom of your top. Okay, so as you go along, it's going all the way along, and you're going to go all the way along and pin it all the way across your top. So once you've done that, once you've got your fold, what you need to do is, can you see where the fold is just there? You want to come along with your pins and pin all the way along, making sure that the fold is exactly on the edge of your fabric like that. Okay, come all the way along. Now on the first piece, what I did was I curled my fabric back out of the way, and as you can see, we cut a little bit extra fabric, so I'm going to just chop a little bit of it off. I did that mainly because I was a bit concerned about this fabric fraying, so I'm just going to roll it once and twice so the ends marry up exactly like that there. Okay, so they're both sitting lovely together and it's on that fold there. All right, okay, and then we're just going to go along with the machine and do it on the 1/4 of an inch. We're going to go all the way along on that 1/4 of an inch like that. Keep this piece out of the way. All right, if you're getting a good view, there is the edge of my fabric. I know you can't see it very well because it sort of marries into the other stuff, but I've kept this big long piece of fabric out of the way. All right, so I'm just going to come along with the fabric on the 1/4 of an inch. So this is where my fabric is here. All right, do a back stitch and then go all the way to the end, keeping that fabric on that 1/4 of an inch. So there you go, and I've trimmed off that 1/4 of an inch there like that, and I'm going to take this piece of fabric which is stitched onto the bodice, I'm going to turn it over, and then I'm going to take that and fold that on that 1/4 of an inch, and with my needle and thread I'm going to come all the way and put a stitch right the way along that back so that that is all hidden, and all you will see from the front is that. Okay, take your two pieces of thread, wind it around your finger twice, and then place the two ends through the 2 circles. Hold on to the end of the thread and pull your knot nice and tight, and you've got a nice knot there. And then just trim off the little ends like that, okay? Now I took my top to the iron, and as you can see, this will be the front of your top, and then with that piece, the extra piece which we sewed on, I went very carefully along with the iron and ironed it all so that you don't see that piece at all. All of it is around the back. And then all we're going to do is take our, can you see that? Okay, take our fabric and we're going to fold it under twice. So we're going to fold it under once, then we're going to fold it under again. So you've got a nice flat seam. As you can see that, I would recommend not using this fabric if you're just starting to sew. I would do it in a cotton or something. Okay, so that's just a loose thread. I'm going to clip that off, and then I'm going to take my needle, making sure all that fabric is folded right under like that all the way along. And what you want to do is you want to stitch just to that inside back piece. You don't want to stitch to the front piece. Take your needle and take any threads away, and then I'm going to just come in just a tiny bit because I don't want that knot to be right on the very edge. Do that again. Okay, there you go, pull that knot right in, there we are, and then just go from just that inside layer only into that back piece there, and we're just going to do that all the way along. Okay, making sure that as you're doing it, you're not pulling that fabric, but you're also catching this piece of fabric here in the front, both layers, and you're going straight into the back piece of the fabric only and not the front. So if you turn it round, you look at the front, there's no needle in there. Okay, I can actually see that, but I don't know if you will be able to see that. Okay, and you're just going to sew all the way along, keep turning that fabric under and stitch all the way to the very end, and when you get to the end, tie it off in a knot. Okay, so here is the little top all finished. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some pop fasteners. I was going to put velcros on this when I first started doing it, but then I thought about it, and because it's so itchy, the fabric, I think that the velcros will just catch onto the fabric and then that'll pull it off, and I don't really want it ripping, pulling all this out, because you can see how easily it's been fraying. So I've got 2 pop fasteners, and I'm going to put a pop fastener on there and a pop fastener. I'm just going to stitch them on, okay, hand stitch them, and then the other 2, these 2, the ones which go into the hole, I'm going to put on the inside here and here. Obviously I'll marry them up with the position of those 2, so I would stitch those 2 on first, and what I do is I go into that hole, and then do about 4 or 5 stitches in that side, and then do the same in that one, into, same on that one. Okay, and then work out where that one is by just turning it like that, and you'll get the fabric, and you'll line the fabric up with the top of that piece, and then you'll work out where it's going to go. All right, so because you want it to lay so that both the pieces of fabric marry up like that. Okay, so don't just stitch it on, because you know if you stitch it on here, it's not going to do up with that one there. It's going to be sort of like that, isn't it? Sort of thing. So okay, so marry those up and just stitch those on like that, and that's the little that'll be the little top finished then. All right, it's quite pretty. So here is the skirt, and all the pleats have been ironed in now, and they're laying really nicely. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take, I'll just take Alice here. Let's move your hair out of the way, Alice. That's it. Okay, and I'm going to lay that skirt down on the table. Now you might have to, if you're using a lurex, you'll probably have to spend a few minutes just going over and cutting off all those threads. So just put your skirt into position, and you'll need to put a pop fastener there on that piece. Okay, and then you want to get your other piece of skirt, and you don't want it too tight, but you want it reasonably, you don't really want to be pulling it to get it to fasten. So I would sew that one on just the same as we sewed it onto the top there, and then put the other one just on that piece there, so that's going to go together. Now if you don't want to use a pop fastener, you can sew a piece of ribbon on here and a piece of ribbon on here and do the same when you get to this side. Okay, so you're going to need a pop fastener on there and a pop fastener on the other side of it, so you'll need the round side of it for that side, and you'll need that one for the outside. Okay, so one for the outside and one for the inside, like that, so that closes over. Right, make sure you put that one on the outside the skirt and this one goes onto the inside of the skirt. All right, and then bring it across. So as I say, you don't want it too tight because otherwise the pop fastener will just come undone. And then you're going to put the other one here, so you're going to have that side on the inside. Hopefully you can see this. This side will go here on the inside like that, and then this one will go on the, that one will go on the outside, sorry, and that one will go on the inside, right on that edge, and it should come over and marry up to that. You want to get it so that it sits correctly and that isn't too loose, all right, but you don't want it too tight either, so it's just fiddling with it until you get it in the absolutely right position. Okay, there we go. And then once you've got all those done, what you need to do is come around here to the back of the skirt. It's got an end there, I don't know where that's come from, just cut that off. Another end. That's, I found loads of ends when I've been doing it. Okay, so and then we're going to get the scarf piece, and what you'll want to do is put a pop fastener on there and a pop fastener on there on one of the ends, and then we're going to pop it onto a skirt like that, so that it's sort of, you can have it like that, you can have it however you want it, or if you don't want to do that, you can just literally tuck it into her belt like that. Okay, so if you don't want to put the pop fasteners on it, you can just do that. Right, so this is my headscarf now. We're just working on the headscarf, and the we're going to sew the two pop fasteners on one end and on the back of the skirt, and then I want to find the middle of my fabric, and my middle of my fabric is obviously where I've done that. I want to lay it down flat, and what I want to do is I want to fold it so that it's going to sit on her shoulder. Okay, so I'm just folding it up like that. All right, and then I'm going to take my pin, which I had right here a second ago, knocked them on the floor. So I'll just take a pin then, and I'm just going to place it in the center of there. Okay, and I'm just going to run the sewing machine right across that shoulder piece there. All right, I'm just taking it to the sewing machine. Okay, place my needle down, take out my pin, I'm going to run it across. Oh, my wire's come out. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, and do a little back stitch. Back right across to the very end, and a little back stitch just to finish it there on that end. Okay, there you go. You know, so here it is on the shoulder seam. Okay, and that is going to go onto her top here. All right, so it's going to come here and it's going to lay on that top. And what I want to do is to make sure that doesn't come off when the children are playing with it, is I'm going to stitch a pop fastener. I'm going to stitch one right in the center of that shoulder seam there, like that, and then I'm going to stitch the other one. Can you see that in the center of that shoulder seam there? Okay, and then I'm going to stitch the other one into the underside of the scarf. Okay, so we're almost there with the outfit. Okay, so we've got her scarf on, and we've put the pop fastener in here, and then I put a couple of hair grips in as the way I'm going to have her hair. So I'm going to just put a stitch. I've got this inside layer here, and I'm going to put this layer here and this layer here, because no matter what I did with the scarf, it kept sticking up at the back. I think that will make it easier for the children to put it on and off as well. So I'm just going to put a tiny couple of stitches here, just enough to hold it, not very many at all, but I'm just going to slip a few stitches just in through there. The hair, so this is the back of the hairband here, okay, and I'm just going to literally put just a few stitches into it, and I'll do a few back stitches, and then I'll go forward again. I just for the sake of it, just put a few more. That's it, and that's it done. Okay, and that should be enough just to hold that in place at the back there. And here she's in her outfit. As you can see, the skirt is lovely and pleated going all the way around. She's got her lovely hair scarf, and it's looking really nice. There you go. I really like my outfit. I hope you enjoyed making your own. Goodbye.